Yes, hello everyone. Project it's Jockety Cúilín Media. You're very welcome back to another show here on Cúilín Media with all four of us once again, lads. Great to see. Seamus Brady, my name is joined by Aaron Prendergast, Liam White, and Matthew Hurley. Lads, we have quite an episode to get through here today. We were talking about it off air before we came on. 21 county finals this weekend across all four codes to preview. Along with that, one of the greatest hurlers of the modern era, Declan Hannon, announced his retirement from the inter-county game. We have a lot to jump through, but I'm looking forward to it, lads. Liam, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, it's a bumper episode. It's good to be back on and not putting my thoughts through the comments like on Monday. But happy to be back on. It's 21 finals in one weekend. It's like how you can even be able to try and keep your focus on every single one of them, especially on Sunday when a lot of them are happening at the same time. But we're going to do our best. Some cracking finals to look forward to this weekend all across the country. And looking forward to getting into it.
Absolutely. So, well, Peter has fired in the question. So, Aaron, I'm going to throw you the question that he has gone straight off the bat. Peter says, hey, lads, one news story that caught my eye was the GA's statement about regulating the appointment of outside managers. What's your assessment on this? It's become a bit of a hot topic, but it's something that has been going on for a long time. And in my opinion, a bigger problem that doesn't get spoken about, because the thing that I'm worried about more than outside managers is outside players, especially in the big counties. Dublin, it happens all the time in Dublin. There's no rules as to who can get what player, and it leads to this kind of race where clubs are desperate to get this player and that player to join them. And we've seen massive high-profile cases over the last 10 years in Dublin, whether it's Shane Walsh going to Kilmacud Crokes, whether it's Conor Early going to Nafina, whether it's Enda Barley going to St. Vincent's. Like, we've seen big high-profile cases of it, and they've made massive differences to their club's season. I would be more worried about that, Aaron, but what's your take on the outside managers? Because when we're talking about, when people are talking about under-the-table payments and stuff like that, I feel like the club championship is actually more vulnerable to it because there is so many clubs around the country. And it's just impossible to regulate this. And how many of those outside managers, especially when you're looking at a manager who might be from one county on one side of the country, yet he's traveling to get to training. And why would he be doing that if he wasn't getting paid? So I can understand why people are a little bit bothered by it, but what's your take on it?
Yeah, look, I can understand people's opinion on it as well, to be fair. Like, especially from a player perspective, as we saw, as you mentioned, a few of the players there, Shane Walsh and Keelan Sexton and Keane Dart, all these kind of players who've ended up kind of playing for Dublin clubs. So I can get it from a player perspective. Like, on the manager side of things, I actually don't really have that much of an issue with it, to be honest with you. I actually think it's quite good for counties like Wicklow, counties like Offaly, counties like Clare to get outside managers in, because at the end of the day, it improves those teams, it improves those players. I think like the underhand payments and offshore accounts and all this crack, like I think that's a separate issue and that needs to be tackled separately. I don't think this is necessarily going to fix that, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think from a player perspective, absolutely, yeah. I think if a player is from, I don't know, Kerry, and they've no family relatives from Dublin, but yet they live and play in Dublin and they play for a Dublin club, which I think is fine. They can play for a Dublin club in that aspect, but they have to play for a Dublin club in the area maybe that they live, if it's possible to kind of regulate that. It's difficult, obviously, in Dublin because there are so many clubs, and that will certainly be a difficult thing to manage. And obviously a player could just move and live somewhere else. So that's an interesting one they need to look at. But I think in that scenario, what definitely shouldn't happen is if that said player, like maybe Shane Walsh, for example, like I don't know if Shane Walsh has any Dublin relatives. I don't think he does, but I don't want to say he doesn't just in case, there's one off the back of my head. But he should never play for Dublin. Like, the option should never be there. It should never be an option. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion, I think that 100% should be ruled out. Same with Keane Darcy, even Keelan Sexton, these lads. And look, they probably won't ever play for Dublin anyway, because I don't think these players would want to play for Dublin. They want to play for their own counties. So I don't think that would ever be an issue anyway. But it would just be if ever further down the line there was another player who maybe got his head turned, or maybe was a star player at a Wicklow or a Longford or something like that, let's say, and then all of a sudden Dublin are kind of poking, you know what I mean? And that could maybe be where it becomes an issue. But in terms of outside managers, don't really have a huge issue with it, to be honest. I think we saw a lot of outside managers progress, or outside managers progress counties. Look at what Mickey Hart did with Louth, what Ger Brennan kind of sort of followed on from that as well. So I don't really have an issue with that. And to be honest, if they actually did stop outside managers going to some of the lesser counties, I actually think it would be quite disappointing, because I actually think the gap could grow even further between the bigger counties and the smaller counties.
I think you put it really well there. I think, like, when you see managers jumping in, like, it is really, really interesting to see how they'll get on. I have no problem with outside managers. I do have a problem with the level it's got to with outside players, because, twice now in the last 5 years in Dublin finals, intercounty players from outside of the club have made the difference. And ironically, it was both against Na Fianna. Shane Walsh made the difference in the final. The Crokes won against Na Fianna, and Cian Darcy was one of the key players in Ballyboden getting over the line in the most recent final. He scored the goal. Like, it's a consistent team in the game. But on top of that, like, this isn't just a Dublin problem. Like, Jordan Maloney joined Moy Cullen. Why did he join Moy Cullen? There's a lot of that going on. But the problem is that now, and rightfully so, I don't have a problem with the split season, but because of the split season, you're seeing the club championship get more and more and more prominence. And the thing is, right, is that when the game last year, when Gaelic football was as unwatchable as it was in 2024, we didn't blame the teams. We blamed the rule system for allowing the teams to do that. And they put themselves in a position where they kind of had to do that to win. Well, clubs are being pushed right now that they have to go get players. They have to, because everybody else is going and doing it. And if you don't, you'll actually fall behind. Like, the reason that Na Fianna were able to go toe-to-toe with Ballyboden at midfield in the Dublin final in the first half was because they had Conor Early in midfield, Louth's inter-county midfielder, who went up against Cian Darcy. It's not like they had, do you know what I mean, that they didn't have an inter-county man of their own. And it is slightly concerning because, like Peter says here, it says, did you see the off-the-ball profile on Crokes? The chairperson stated, we don't go out looking, and there is a strict criteria on prospective applicants to join the club. And Peter says, really though? I think the main thing is with Crokes, right? I wouldn't think that they're actually like calling people and being like, come to Kilmacud Crokes, but they definitely aren't turning down players. And on top of that, over the last 10 years, they've had Brian Kavanagh played for them in the 2010 championship in Dublin, which they won. Kevin Dias, former Armagh intercounty player. Adrian Morrissey, former Wexford intercounty player. And Shane Walsh and Alva Davern made the difference in the Dublin LGFA final just there recently. She was voted player of the match. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is... And Derv Lagower, the goalkeeper, also a Galway intercounty player. So, again, you're looking at what is it about Galway intercounty players moving to Kilmacud Crokes. My thing is that you're entering now, as the club championship gets more and more and more prominent, you're entering a stage where there's no rules. And you're seeing with clubs like Ballygunner, for example, players like Stephen O'Keefe, players like Pádraig Mahoney, who just don't play county anymore. They play club because the club, actually, they're getting very similar levels of prominence, and they're getting All Ireland medals, or they're getting Munster medals or Waterford medals and stuff like that, and that's enough for them. But as the club game gets more and more prominence, I think, and this is just a prediction now, I think that if the game is to go professional, it will go professional through the clubs, because you'll see players moving from club to club, and it will be very difficult to make it a system that is free and fair, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the players one, the issue I've always had with, say, players is that I don't mind them, say, playing for another club, but as long as they're living in that area, like, I'm not a fan of players just deciding I'm going to play for this club because I feel like it. Like, I can remember a couple of years ago, like when my own father was chairman of our club, we wouldn't let a player officially sign for us until he had officially moved to where we were. And until he moved, we said, not happening. And then he moved, and, he played for us, and that was no issue at all. And look, his family come from our area anyways. But, that's always been my issue. In terms of managers, look, it's hypocritical of me to be saying this, because my club employs a man from the outside at the moment. But I don't think managers is as big of an issue because like managers can come and go. You know, like we have Declan Laffin this year. Look, Declan Laffin could decide next year, you know, I want to move on. I want to go somewhere else. Whereas a player like Shane Walsh, when did Shane Walsh join Kilmacud Crokes again? When was that? 22?
Late 2022, fresh off the All-Ireland final.
Yeah. But like, he's not gone back to his old club since. And realistically, when's he going to leave Kilmacud Crokes? Like, let's be honest about it. You know, like it's the players are not going to realistically leave those clubs. And like you mentioned there, if there was to be a transfer window brought in, I think a transfer window now for the GEA, or if it turned professional that way, I think would be just absolutely, it would destroy the game, to be honest with you, because it would just get rid of that real parish feeling. And you'd have, you know, I feel like a lot of players in a way wouldn't want to join another club. But like Aaron said there, if you did get a young lad who maybe had notions and had people tagging him saying you should be playing for a bigger club or you should be playing for a better club, you know, that could turn him, you know, and that could make him think, and it could destroy, you know, local parishes or smaller parishes, whatever. So I don't know. Look, my issue has always just been, I don't mind if a player moves clubs. I don't mind if they put on another club's jersey, but as long as they are living in that area, they've moved to that area and not just like living, I don't know, if you're playing for Kilmacud Crokes, I'm just using as an example, but you're living like in Navina, say, you know, just as an example, or if you're living in Ballyboten, just like, no, don't be playing for them. You got to be playing for the other crowd. But I don't know.
Well, in the Dublin Championship, especially, the thing is that what really frustrates me is I'm always like, well, why are they always moving to the teams that have a very realistic shot of winning the Dublin Championship? Like, that's my thing. So I think that if we're going to keep this going in Dublin, a way that you can do it is, you know how, like, I'm not saying that you should draft players, not at all. But you know how the NFL have that system where if you finish lower, it's like you qualify almost to get a player. That you could have it that, okay, if you want to move to Dublin, there's 92 clubs in Dublin. 92 clubs. You're really telling me Kilmacud was the only option that you could move to, or Ballyboden was the only option that you could play for? You could definitely play for a Senior B club and keep your level really high. But the reality is that it starts this, like, it's like a trait in business that, like, once one company sees another company doing it, they all do it. And it's like once Nafina get a player, or Crokes get a player, or Bowden get a player, or St. Jude's, who have definitely engaged in that as well, with like Niall Coakley and Mark Sweeney and Oisin Manning, all inter-county players over the last 10 years who've been vital for Jude's. Once they see other counties doing it, it's very much like, well, evolve or die. And that's why, to be honest, Cúilín winning was a breath of fresh air last year, because they were the first club in Dublin to win the Dublin Championship with 15 lads actually from Dalkey, actually from Cúilín, in so long. Like, genuinely, it's had, you know, whoever's won has usually had a helping hand from other counties. Ballymun-Kickham's actually 2020 is a great example, but was that also partially down to the lockdown, having everybody back at home? Like, we don't know. And that's the honest thing. We don't know. And with this, it's really, really interesting because there is no real hard set rule. And once that's the case, it's a bit of a free-for-all in terms of territory and players and everything like that. And as the game becomes more and more professional, like we say this, it's professional and everything but money. Like, in terms of like the players getting paid. I don't know. I just worry about it when it's not regulated. I worry what direction it could go. But I feel like we could do a full debate on this, lads, on another day. Matthew, would you like to weigh in on this, or are you happy to move on to Declan Hannon?
Just one more thing on this, and I think, look, you don't have to reinvent the wheel over this. And Peter did mention a comment. I'm actually going to bring it up there. The parish rule. Like, I mean, that rule there, what Peter was saying, lads living in Drumcondra can't play with Crokes. If the parish rule is there, they have to play with Nafina. And I've said this previously as well, there's a parish rule in Kerry. Peter has mentioned there's a parish rule in Kildare. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's just a basic kind of rule. Have that in Dublin.
How does the parish rule work?
I think it will work, absolutely. You look at Kerry.
How does it work?
How does it work? Basically, if you live in a certain place, you have to play with that club. Look at Kerry, David Clifford. He only has to play for Fossa. There's no way David Clifford can transfer to a bigger club to boost his career. Obviously, David Clifford isn't that type of player, but there's no way he can transfer to Dr. Crokes or Austin Stacks. He has to stay with Fossa in intermediate level. If that rule is in Dublin,
we need a variation of that rule, because, like, Aaron, you live around the corner from me. Like, do you know what your local parish is? I don't. Like, there's 3 churches all equal distance away from my house. I know which one I've gone to growing up, but I don't know if geographically that's the closest one to me. Like, I'm kind of between a church that would be down as a Whitehall Columkill church and a church that would be down as a Ballymun-Kickham's church, although Nafina also kind of claimed that church too. Like, it's right in the middle of Glasnevin between the 2 clubs. So we would need a hybrid version of that, and that's a key thing as well. Nafina technically are down as a Drumcondra club. Ballymun-Kickham's are technically down as a Ballymun club. You have a massive suburb of Dublin there in Glasnevin between the 2 of them. And I mean, it is a fucking free-for-all there. Like, it is literally like both clubs are trying to recruit as many players from that area as they can. And I'm sure that goes on in loads of places. But it is always gas anytime that one of them is in a final. They're always whacking the flags up around Glasnevin and kind of claiming the territory. But it is really, really interesting to see. And the truth is like, I do agree with you, Matthew. We should have some variation of the parish rule. I don't think one size fits all, because of the differences in population and urban sprawl and everything like that. Like, what will work for Dublin won't work for Donegal, and what will work for Donegal won't work for Dublin. We need variations of it, but it should be fairly obvious who you should be playing for. But then again, it's like the GA is the volunteer sport. It's really interesting. Peter says with parish rule, like Matthew said, players must play with club affiliated with their parish. If a lad looks to transfer for no legit reason, he's blocked by the club, etc. Yeah, I mean, we have had that. My thing that worries me is we've had one example, and like, I really hope that this doesn't become a trend, and that was Kieran Redden moving from St. Maur's to Nafina. And he lined out and started in the Dublin final for Nafina. And this is a guy who's played senior inter-county football for Dublin, and he left St. Maur's. Maybe his life is located in Drumcondra, but Drumcondra to Rush is a fair distance. Like, it is a decent drive. It's about 40 minutes, but it like that made me a little bit like, nah. I'm not sure about that, because that's Moore's best player moving to Nafina, which is one crippling St. Maur's championship, but also giving Nafina a massive leg up on everyone else around. And yeah, I don't know. I hope it doesn't go down that route. But with the club championship, like, the rules are it's a little bit more the Wild West in terms of players moving here and there. But in terms of the managers, to bring it all back 18 minutes ago when we opened that question, I don't mind it. And I actually think it's a net positive for the game for sure to have outside managers. Matthew, I'll throw it right back to you. Declan Hannon announced his inter-county retirement. So one of the greats of the modern era, Declan Hannon, walks away from the stage. What a career this guy has had. Yeah,
fantastic. Obviously, the only player in hurling history to win 4 All-Irelands as captain. A lot of people would say 5, but look, there's a bit of a kind of trivia there. Cian Lynch was the captain in 2023, so he technically won 4 as captain, but you could say 5 as well. Either or, he's been a fantastic servant to Limerick hurling. Ironically, he started off as a forward. Obviously, back in 2013 under John Allen, he was considered one of Limerick's best forwards in that Munster winning team, alongside the likes of Shane Dowling and all them guys, the Graham Mulcahy's and Shawnee Tobins and them players. But Declan Hannon was a superb player. What a player to fit into centre-back as seamlessly as he did down through the years. As Louise Cantian mentioned as well, his wife, obviously presenter with Today FM, she did mention during the week that every team that Declan has been a part of, he's been captain. If you think of Fitzgibbon Cup with Mary I, he's been captain there. And when you think of Artskull Rish in the Harty Cup, he's been captain there. The Limerick underage teams, under 20 minor, captain there. And obviously the Limerick senior team, he's excelled. He's been an absolutely outstanding figure for hurling as well. Obviously in the last few years, he did slow down a small, but that is obviously expected considering the heights that he got to as a Limerick player over the years. But what a player, what a servant to Limerick, and what a consummate professional as well. I know I keep using that term, and it's not professional in terms of there is amateurism in Gaelic games, but he was absolutely exceptional. Declan Hannon down through the years. Obviously, he will be missed by Limerick. A lot of people are saying, like, I scrolled through Twitter, and I think Donald Cusack or some other RT analyst said Cathal O'Neill could fit into the centre back role seamlessly. But the reality is, I know Colin Coughlin is a decent player as well, but Declan Hannon's almost like irreplaceable in terms of his leadership, in terms of his I suppose his positioning on the field as well at centre back. He was absolutely outstanding at that, and his clutch moments as well in games. He wasn't flashy, the likes of Cian Lynch or the likes of, let's say, an Aaron Gallant in that Limerick team, or even in the midfield to a lesser extent Will O'Donoghue. He was just a guy that did a job at the role he was assigned to, and he was a captain. He was a leader for Limerick. He was captain for a few years on the trot for a reason. He was an exceptional leader. John Kiley trusted him as well, and that tells you all you need to know. Like, John Kiley's a superb manager, and absolutely brilliant servant to Limerick down through the years. I suppose his versatility as well is absolutely outstanding, and he will be missed in terms of his leadership, in terms of his defensive qualities as well, and attacking qualities indeed. So Declan Hannon, what a player, and Limerick will definitely miss him down through the year. I know, as I said, he has slowed down a small bit, but his leadership skills is probably irreplaceable in many ways in that Limerick team. You'd wonder now who will step up to that kind of role as an Limerick captain. You would say the obvious choice is Cian Lynch, but will he do as good as a job as Declan Hannon has down through the years? Remains to be seen.
Absolutely, you're well put. I think, honest to God, he reminds me a lot of Cian O'Sullivan, Declan Hannon, in terms of that he's the type of player that when he retires, that's how you'll realise just how good he is. You'll realise all the things that he did for Limerick, all of the pieces that he put together. He has been an absolute warrior for them. Where he started off with Limerick, they hadn't won the All-Ireland since 1973. They'd been heartbroken in the finals that they had got to. And when he started off with them, they weren't close to winning the All-Ireland. And they won the Munster Championship in 2013. That was seen as a massive breakthrough. And then I remember he was outstanding in that game against Kilkenny in 2014 in the pouring rain. I remember him scoring that point with one hand where he swung the hurl. But then to lead Limerick into their golden era and be captain for all of that success, and to be just an ever-present, when you consider how much talent is in that Limerick team, he was always nailed in at centre-half back if he was fit. And there's no question about it. One of the most underrated players of all time, when you consider just how important he is, just how versatile he is, just how ever-present he was in one of the greatest hurling teams of all time. There's no question about it. Declan Hannon goes down as a true great. And all the best in retirement, Declan. Aaron, when we look at his career, what moments stand out to you?
Yeah, that's a tough one to kind of nail down, specifically, off the top of my head. One thing that though I do remember actually was, and not to remind Matthew of this, but the 2021 All-Ireland final against Cork. I thought in general he was outstanding that day. Played an absolute stormer. One of his best performances I think I've seen in a Limerick shirt. But I actually remember in the final, I think it was the final 10 minutes when the game was done and dusted and he was being substituted. And he was just laughing as he was coming off. He was just smiling and just looked, obviously he knew the game was done. The game was over. But I think that just kind of epitomised the type of player that he was in many ways. That's definitely kind of one moment that stands out. But I'll throw it back to you lads if you lads have any other kind of standout ones.
I remember one moment. I remember I think it was the All-Ireland final of 2023. Limerick Kilkenny, and Declan Hannon. Now, I could be wrong, but Declan Hannon got the ball out on the wing, and it was clear that Kilkenny were trying to make a statement. They were trying to get stuck into Limerick from the get-go. And Declan Hannon just absorbed about 3 shoulders, but like proper hard shoulders, and won himself a free out, and then just looked completely unfazed. Like, just looked like he didn't care, didn't bother him in the slightest. And when you think about the competition that he's had in that half back line, like he's had Dermot Burns on one side of him, Kyle Hayes on another side, he's had Dan Morrissey there, he's had Barry Nash, he's had Colin Coughlin. And his position has never really been in question. No one's ever really been saying you should drop Declan Hannon. Like, it's never been really up for debate. If Declan Hannon is fully fit, he's playing. The only time I've ever heard someone say Declan Hannon shouldn't play is when Declan Hannon was injured. If Declan Hannon was fit, he was in there at number 6. Liam, I'll come to you next.
Yeah, I suppose I've had the pleasure of meeting him. I met him in 2018 after he'd won the All-Ireland with Limerick, and have to say, absolute gent. Chatted to him for 20-30 minutes, and he was a very down-to-earth guy. Could easily see why he was Limerick captain over the last number of years. Just a really, really nice fella to talk to, very easy to talk to. I suppose from an on-the-pitch perspective, I know it wasn't the winning point in a way, but the point he got in the Munster final in 2022 against Clare, where he had about 3 or 4 bodies around him. And I know Tony Kelly had the sideline cut that drew the game in the end, but even just that point there, like, I don't know, was he 70, 80 yards out? He had 3 Clare players chasing him down, trying to hook him and block him, and he hit it off his left-hand side over the bar. And, you know, had that been the match winner in the Munster final, it'd have been so fitting that he would have been the one to do it. And from the angle that he did it from, and in that type of situation, and with a wet ball as well, because it was a very wet day that day in Thurles. I think that was the day the power went out in Thurles or something like that before the Munster final, or was that the year after? I can't remember. But that one, and I think from an off-the-pitch perspective, I think his speech in the 2020 All-Ireland final against Waterford was a real moment, because obviously we were all stuck at home during COVID, and, you know, all we kind of really had to do at home, really, thankfully for people who are into sport, you know, if you're into football, you had the Premier League, or if you're obviously into GAA like us, you had the club championship first in the summer, and then the inter-county season in the winter months. And I don't know, just his speech that he gave afterwards was just one of real hope, you know, and you couldn't have really asked for a better person to really epitomize how together the country needed to be at that moment, and how much we kind of needed something like an All-Ireland final before Christmas, just to give us all a small bit of hope. You know, I thought he was outstanding in that speech. You know, it was a speech that I think maybe the presidential candidates should have a look at before tomorrow. But yeah, no, it's I suppose those 2 moments for me really stood out. And yeah, look, having met him before, he's an absolute gent. Great to chat to, and yeah, I wish him the best of luck in his retirement from Limerick. Like you mentioned there, he'll be a very, very hard figure to replace at centre back, no matter who takes his place there.
Absolutely, well said. We are going to jump into the games. Peter mentions about Declan Hannon, says the OG of successful captains. James, can you add him to Lech or Gale for next year? I definitely do not have say over who gets to Lech or Gale, Peter, but I appreciate that show. Then we are going to move into the games. Just a big shout as well. One story that we are going to talk about, not deeply, but just interesting. Meath playing their home games in Croke Park next season. So the argument against Dublin will whittle away a little bit. Well, at least Meath won't be able to say anything. It would be like the Spider-Man meme if Meath say that we've experienced playing in Croke Park. But anyway, we're going to move into the Club Championship previews for the weekend of the 25th and the 26th of October 2025. Interestingly, no Friday action this weekend, but we do have one game to give a shout to on Wednesday before we move into the fixtures. Clonaireann of Armagh hammering Derry Gunley Harps of Fermanagh in the Ulster Senior LGFA quarterfinals by 5-11 to 9 points. As we all picked Clonaireann to win Ulster, I'm pretty sure, didn't we? They're moving along very, very nicely there. But what I'm going to do is we're going to do a variation of kind of Stop the Bus, but to pay respect to all of the intercounty finals, to pay respect to all of the county finals, I am going to go around and we'll all just pick. If we're not stopping the bus, I'll go around and we all give a quick pick for who we think is going to win said county final. I think that shows the respect to each one. But this one, I mean, talk about a game to start off with. Matthew, I'm going to throw it to you because you picked Salt Hill Knocknacarra to win the All-Ireland. This Saturday, they go up against Moycullen in the Galway Senior Football Championship final at 7:30 p.m. What a game this is going to be.
Just on a side note, wouldn't it be the podcast luck if Salt and Knocknacarra lose?
Oh, yeah. You're the last one standing.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't decide if I'm rooting for Matthew or not, because if Saltair win, he won't shut up about it for the rest of the year. But if Saltair lose, well then we've all got it wrong. It's not a great thing for Cúilín.
Stages like.
No, I am rooting for Saltair because I said that Saltair would win Connacht. So
yeah. Yeah, I suppose we all win at some stage, but this is, I would say, it's a poignant final in many ways, because I see the post on Facebook the other day. Actually, there was the two managers that faced off against each other in the Galway Senior Football Championship final in 22, I think it was John O'Mahony for Saltair Knocknacarra, and for Mike Cullen it was Canellan, I think it was, and both of them have sadly passed away in the past few years. So it is a poignant final, first of all, between the two sides. And obviously two of them brilliant managers for their respective clubs and in GA circles as well, will be remembered, no doubt about it. As for the game itself, Saltair will probably go in as favourites, considering they beat Corfin in the semi-finals. Yes, they beat them by 2 points, but they beat them and they knocked out kind of the Dragons in this. Mike Cullen, they struggled a bit in the semi-final against Tuam Stars. They really did. They do have some decent players, the likes of Daisy Kennedy, some decent players up in the forward line there. And they do have experience in winning the Galway Championship. Saltair Knocknacarra don't. But Saltair do have very, very good talented players. The likes of Tom O'Connell, the likes of Cathal Sweeney, obviously, Rob Finnerty. You have to imagine they have to make the fruits of that sooner rather than later. One blow that is there, though, John Maher is going to be injured for this final. He got injured during the semi-final. Pretty bad injury as well. So obviously wishing John Maher all the best in his recovery. But that does set back Saltair a small little bit. But then you still look at the talent that I didn't mention there. Matthew Thompson is another player. Like, to have that amount of talent in your team, nominee for the Young Footballer of the Year, Galway's top scorer, Galway's underage kind of king in Tom O'Connell down through the years, an underrated hero in Cathal Sweeney. Like, you have all of these players in the forward line. You'd imagine you have to win a trophy sooner rather than later. I'd probably go Saltair Knocknacarra to win because of the quality that they have in the team, and basically their run to the final has been more impressive than Mike Cullen's in many ways. But Mike Cullen do have experience, so you can't discount that either. You'd expect Saltair to win it, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if Mike Cullen win it because of the experience that they do have.
Yeah, this reminds me a bit of, like, to some degree, it reminds me of like Ergo Kieran against Trillick, where like you're looking at all of the talent that Ergo have, but Trillick are kind of like Mike Cullen in that, yeah, they're not the current champions, but they are a wily old team, like, and they just have a few tricks up their sleeve. And on top of that, they have some outstanding players. Like, does Owen Gallagher still play? I know that he's from Antrim originally. Does he still play for Mike Cullen? Remember, he went on to play for Galway. Like, when we're talking about players moving counties, Owen Gallagher started with Antrim and then ended up playing for Galway. But he's a superb player. There's no question about it. Mike Cullen, similar to how Trillick did, they do frighten me a little bit for the pick of Saltair. I think this could be a real stumbling block. If Saltair are to be beat, I think this game could be where they fall. And if not this one, then I would think maybe in Connacht to someone like a Pearce's. But it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this unfolds. Lads, I'll come to Liam, but I'm going to go with Saltair. Obviously, I've picked them to win the Connacht Championship, so I'm sticking. I'm going to ask you really quickly for your predictions, and then I have assigned you both a game after, which I'll keep as a surprise. Aaron, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Saltair as well. Very, very narrowly. I think Matthew summed it up brilliantly there. I think one thing worth mentioning though is I think Peter Cook is back from Mike Cullen. Came off the bench the last day at half time and actually kicked some brilliant 2-pointers. So that could be big, but no, I'll stick with I'll go with Saltair as well.
That's like a double whammy though. Peter Cook being back and John Maher being gone. Like, that's
stars could align a bit there, you know.
That's like, when a team doesn't get a goal in a match and then the team goes down and scores a goal down the other end and it's like a 6-point swing. That's like, not only are Mike Cullen getting one of the best midfielders in the country on his day back, Salt Hill are losing arguably the best midfielder in the country right now, like in John Maher. Like it's pretty savage. But Aaron, you're going with Salt Hill. So you got 3 for Salt Hill. Liam, do you want to be that guy and go with something different, or are you gonna go with Salt Hill as well?
No, I'm going with Salt Hill. No, I think if there is a time for them to win the Galway Championship again, then it is this time. I mean, you don't put up that type of a performance in the first half against a team like Corofin. And I mean, look, the type of performance they put in, look, they could have nearly stumbled. And the second half, it was squeaky bum time. You know, it certainly was. But I just think the way they dominated the first half, some of the football that they played, and look, Maher being out is obviously a big miss. But you look at some of the other players that they do have amongst their squad. I have no doubt that they will be able to step up this weekend. I think it'll be a very close game. Like you mentioned there, it wouldn't be any shock if Mike Cullen did win this match. But I'm going to shape it to the Salt Hill, knock the Cara by 3 points.
Good pick. I'm going to bat it straight back to you. You ready? Mayo Senior Football Championship Final replay, Ballina Stephenites against Westport. And we have a comment in here from Jordan Cairns. He says, in Castlebar, the replay is getting closer between Ballina, Stephenites and Westport. I have Ballina to win by 2, but I won't be surprised if Westport sneak it. What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, it's a very interesting match. Obviously, went down to the wire the last day, and I mean, I have to say it's nice to see a Mayo final that has a high scoreline, unlike the one that we had a couple of years ago. Was it Brafey was in it, and who else was in it with?
Don't get me started.
Yeah, what was it, like 5-4 or something like that? And
you want to know a stat? This is Matthew's favorite stat. He always bursts out laughing every time I bring this up.
Go on.
If you saw the first point from play, right? Let's say you saw the first point from play. You could get on a flight to London, and by the time you touch down, you could see the next score from play.
I think you did mention this. That's brilliant.
So there you go. Oh, like if you're just about to board the plane, and then the sign comes up saying like, do you know what I mean?
Like, so that's outrageous. Like, but yeah, look, it was nice to see a final actually ending with a big scoreline the last day, and the way Ballina Stephenites managed to get themselves the 2-pointer at the end to force a replay was very, very well done. Frank Irwin had a good game the last day. Jack Irwin kind of quiet to a degree. Evan Regan scored 6 points. It's gonna be an interesting battle again. The big thing that for Ballina last day was that they got 5 points from midfield, which is absolutely crucial to any team, especially in a game of football. Obviously, look, you have Lee Keegan playing for Westport, which look, we all know about Lee Keegan's talents and the leader that he is. Finbar McLaughlin did well the last day. I think it's going to be a very close game again. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw again, to be honest with you, but I'm going to edge it to Ballina Stephenites. I just think if their midfield can perform the same way again, a lot of time matches are won in the midfield for me. I think that's why even we won last weekend, because like we had a player that scored 3 points for midfield and another one that contributed 2. And similarly here, I think if you're winning the midfield battle or the battle between like the 2 45s, then I think you're going to go a long, long way. And I expect Jack Irwin to have maybe a better day this time around than he did the last day. Obviously, Luke Doherty scored 2 points the last day as well. I'm going to edge it to Ballina Stephenites. I think they might be able to edge out over Westport. Any
disagreements with that, lads?
No,
I think I agree as well. Westport.
Yeah.
Clean sweep for Ballina. I'm going for Ballina as well. Aaron, I'll show it to you next. The Dublin Senior 1 Hurling Championship Final. Nafina going up against Lucan Sarsfields. Obviously, Nafina now settled in as the kings of Dublin hurling right now. But can Lucan knock them off their perch this Saturday?
It's definitely going to take something monumental, I think, for Lucan Sarsfields to stop Nafina. Like Nafina are just unbelievable at times. And look, like one thing you would say from a Lucan perspective is like they were sort of pegged back a little bit towards the end of the game against Cúilín. They probably took their eye off the ball a little bit. They probably looked a little bit too comfortable. Look, Lucan do have some players there who can make an impact. Obviously, Paul and Chris Crummy are 2 players that stand out. You've got John Bellew at the back as well, managed by Charlie Carter, Kilkenny legend. So, look, it's been an incredible story for Lucan. They've only been to one final previously. That was back in 2013. They've never won the Dublin Hurling Championship as well. It just feels like Nafina are just going to be far too powerful, though. Like when you look at the players that Nafina have all across the board, like they've so many different ways to hurt you, whether it be AJ Murphy, whether it be Donald Burke, Sean Curry. Do you know what I mean? There's so many ways that, Colin Stacey as well. So it's going to be very, very hard for Lucan. to be honest with you. When you look at the draw as well, like, you know, Na Fianna probably almost had a harder route to the final as well, beating Crokes and beating Cúilín. Whereas, like, not taking anything away from Lucan, but they beat Bridget's and Ballyboden, who I don't think are as good as Crokes and Cúilín, to be honest with you. So I'm just hoping it's competitive. Look, it's a Saturday night game. Obviously, with a Saturday night, it's a standalone kind of game in terms of being on TV. So a lot of people will watch it. Hopefully, it's just not a one-sided game. Like, I hope Lucan can make this a game. They can make it competitive. One thing that is important, though, I think these two met each other in the group, and I think Na Fianna narrowly won that. So that will give Lucan a bit of confidence. There wasn't much kind of between it. But if I had to predict it, I probably would say Na Fianna by 4-5.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Na Fianna are just going to be too hard to move. I was commentating on the group game between the two of them. And they came into that final group game. Both had won, 4 out of 4 of their games. And Na Fianna won, but it like they had that kind of cool vibe of like, we'll see each other down the road type at the end of the game, where like there was a lot of shadow boxing going on between both clubs. I just can't see Na Fianna being turned over. I thought Cúilín might have been able to catch them, but having seen how Na Fianna just brushed Kilmacud aside in that semi-final, like minimal fuss, I'm like, nah. if they're sweeping Kilmacud aside like that, I don't think Lucan have enough to stop them. I'm sorry, because I always am rooting for the underdog, and part of me definitely was rooting for Na Fianna to break that duck and to break through and win the Dublin Championship. But now they're the kings. They're always rooting for the next underdog to come up. But I really do think that Na Fianna they're too strong. At one stage, their forward line in one of the games was Shane Barrett, Sean Curry, Micheál Murphy, Colin Curry, AJ Murphy, Donald Burke. And I was like, you could make a case for all 6 of them. In fact, you could make a case for one more, Tom Brennan. You could make a case for him as well to be starting for Dublin. They've got outrageous strength and depth. Liam Rush at centre-half back still looks like he should be playing for Dublin. He's still the best centre-half back in the Dublin Hurling Championship. And Brian Ryan around the middle is fantastic. So Na Fianna have a very, very good team. And I can't see Lucan beating them this time. So I'm going for Na Fianna to win that one. Moving it back around, Liam, I will come to you next for the Laois Senior Football Championship final replay right up your street. Portarlington against Courtwood. They have to do it all again.
They certainly do. Despite the controversy at the end, the last day, the Portarlington manager, Pat Rose, certainly wasn't too pleased anyways. They felt he should have had a free at the end. And when you do kind of watch it back, it looked like Courtwood kind of got away with conceding a late free at the end. And it probably should have been one for Portarlington. But nevertheless, we got another crack at it again this Saturday night. Very much looking forward to it. John, I'm delighted to see in a way that it is a replay, or I'm delighted to have seen that the final was a competitive one, because look, Portarlington are an extremely strong side, not just in Laois, but if they obviously come out of Laois, they'll be a team that would absolutely be eyeing up a chance to try and get to a Leinster final. But I was delighted to see Courtwood put up a big fight to them. Like, the journey they've been on this season has been absolutely unbelievable. Putting 4 goals past Port Laois, beating St. Joseph's in the last minute, who'd won the championship 2 years ago. It's been a great journey from them. And the way they fought back the last day when they looked like they were sort of down and out throughout the second half against Portarlington, to then put themselves in front with a couple of minutes to go, was really, really well done by them. And look, it's going to be another interesting game. Look, it's the only thing that kind of Mark Bates, he was speaking after the game a couple of weeks ago, the Courtwood manager, kind of said that Portarlington, I don't want to say it's like Kilkenny, but do you remember how Brian Cody used to draw games and then he'd always win the replay because he'd always be able to suss out what he's done wrong? It's sort of kind of has that feel about it, because Portarlington have that experience of winning multiple championships, whereas Courtwood have never won the Laois Championship. So it's sort of hard to go into a second game to a degree, and the adrenaline from obviously having the first final. I think it's going to be a very interesting final. And you know what it is? Like you said, you like a good underdog story. You like to see the underdogs getting the job done. And you know what? I'm going to stick my neck out there. Nothing against Portarlington. Interviewed Ronan Coffey a couple of weeks ago. Lovely fella. Got on with him fierce well. But I'm actually going to back Courtwood to do it. I think Courtwood will win the Laois final this weekend, get their first title. I just think the likes of Sean O'Flynn, who is an excellent midfielder, the likes of Cian Doyle, They have as a Robbie Flynn. They have at centre back. Just they have some really, really talented players in amongst their squad. They have a good spine in their team as well. And I'm going to back them to win the Laois final this weekend. And there'll be some party if they do that, by God, because they're not the biggest of places either. And it'd be nice to see them claim a first championship title.
Certainly would be. We are going to move on now. Matthew, I'm going to come to you next for another replay. Up in Fermanagh this time. Derry Connolly Harps against Earn Gales Bleak. Again, they have to do it all again.
They do, yeah, but I think, well, I'll look at Scorpio in terms of what happened in the game. And according to this, Derry Connolly Harps had a man sent off, Rian McGovern, after 12 minutes of the game. At the time, it was 4 points to 1-1. And for somehow, Earn Gales Bleak didn't kick on after that. On 56 minutes, the score, I think, was Derry Connolly Harps 19 points, and Earn Gales Bleak won 11. Earn Gales Bleak came back into the game later on, but you'd wonder, Earn Gales Bleak had an extra man for that amount of time, and how they didn't take advantage, I don't know. So judging by that, they might have got a bit of luck at the end. Paul Ward got a goal straight away after that, after 57 minutes to make it 2-11 to 19 points. So you could argue that Earn Gales were very, very lucky. And as well as that, the guy that did get sent off, Rian McGovern, got 3 points in the first 10 minutes and then got sent off. So according to this, he got a pretty eventful first 12 minutes, I will say. But look at scores as well. Like Gary McKenna got 8 points the last day for Derry Connolly. He's going to be very, very important. You have Shane McGullion there at centre-back is a very good player. Jack Kelly in goal got a brilliant 2-pointer towards the end for free as well. So I'd say Derry Connolly will win the game. Earn Gales had their chance at the first day. By look at the source, they didn't take it, and I think that will come back to bite them now. I think the replay will be won by Derry Connolly.
Any disagreements with Matthew's assessment, lads? Anyone going for Earn Gales?
No,
I'm fairly happy with Derry Connolly. More experience of winning the Fermanagh Championship over the last 2 years as well. Running through a couple of the games that aren't county finals this weekend. Starting off in Limerick, we have Father Casey's going up against St. Kieran's in the quarter final. In the relegation semi-final is Kildimo Pallaskenry against Napirshig and Ula against Ballylanders. That's in Limerick. The Munster Senior LGFA semi-final, then Comer Rangers. Aaron, your pick for Munster, they go up against Kilmihill. But Aaron, I am going to throw this to you. It's our neighbours, another replay. Ratoath going up against Kiltale. Liam, I'll loop you in on this very quick because obviously we're all Leinster lads. Imagine not being from Leinster. But anyway, the Meath hurling final.
31-14. 31-14.
We can't argue that.
Well, what's 31-14? I'm confused.
The rugby.
Oh, yeah.
who cares about that though? Come on.
That Crowley number 10, but anyway.
There's your clip.
Right. Meath Senior Hurling Championship final replay. Ratoath going up against Kiltale. Aaron, it looked like a cracker the last day out. I'm leaning, because I haven't predicted one yet, I'm leaning slightly towards Ratoath in this one.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, my knowledge of Meath hurling, to be honest with you, wouldn't be at the most highest of levels here now, if I'm being perfectly honest. But yeah, from keeping an eye on the score the last day anyway, it definitely did look like an absolute cracker. And Ratoath obviously are a huge club in Meath, to be fair. And they have a lot of pick-up players, as we know, across like the football team as well. So I'm pretty sure they have been quite dominant in Meath over the last couple of years as well. So yeah, we'll probably go with them to come through.
It should be a cracker either way. Like, it was a goal fest the last day out. But we will run through now more of the games. Munster Intermediate LGFA semi-final. This is still on the Saturday. Clownmackin, Moyven of Kerry going up against Liz Canner of Clare. That's at 2 p.m. And the Leinster Intermediate semi-finals are both taking place on the Saturday. That is Killow of Longford. And I've just got completely lost by accident here. I've accidentally swiped out. Killow of Longford going up against Ballyline of Kildare, while St. Feckin's of Louth go up against Screen of County Meath. The Munster Junior LGFA semi-finals, we have the Donnies, I remember this time, of Cork going up against Cromain of Kerry. while St. Pat's of Waterford go up against St. Pat's of Tipperary. In the Leinster Junior LGFA semi-final, St. Columkills of Meath against Killeshin of Laois. In the Leinster Junior LGFA quarter-final, Muckalee of Kilkenny against St. Moctas of Louth. The Connacht Junior LGFA semi-finals, Northern Harps against Swinford Calaster of Mayo. And then the Connacht Junior LGFA quarter-final, Menlock Slahana of Galway against Curry of Sligo. The Ulster Junior LGFA quarterfinals, all at 2:00 on the Saturday. Killeven of Monaghan against Nave Columba of Donegal, and Connacht Down against Cavan Gales of Cavan. Claudy of Derry against Lissummon of Armagh, and Devonish of Fermanagh against Drumra of Tyrone. Fair play to you, Matthew, putting all this together. I am going to come to you next. Starting off on Sunday is the team that you've sung the praises of, Austin Stacks. They go head-to-head with Dingle in the Kerry County final at 1:45 p.m. on Sunday.
Seen actually on X, Owen Sheehan from Off the Ball actually did a kind of column on the Kerry's Eye this week. I've seen a bit of it, and he was actually saying on the headline that it's kind of an AFL kind of a game here, because you have Ben Murphy from Austin Stacks in midfield, who's apparently going down to Brisbane, and you have Mark O'Connor, who's just come back to play for Dingle for on the other side. So it's an AFL kind of style midfield. Added in, you have Joe O'Connor there from Austin Stacks as well. So it should be an absolutely brilliant game. Also, like TG Carr, Paul Gainey up there performing very well for Dingle. You have the likes of Dylan Gainey as well. Obviously, Dingle beating Mid Kerry in the semi-final, superb achievement. And Dingle have been knocking on the door for years now. They reached the Munster final, obviously losing to Castlehaven on penalties a few years ago. They are a very, very good side. But as our Stacks, as I said to you other night, they look a serious team. Ben Murphy around the middle, Joe O'Connor. You have fellas like Jorg Cassana, especially Paddy Lane up top, Armin Heinrich. Be interesting to see if Joey Nagel gets a start in this game. They have some absolutely brilliant players. And the way they put away Rathmore the last day, very, very impressive. And this was a Rathmore team that absolutely slaughtered East Kerry in the quarterfinal. It is going to be a very interesting game. It's very, very tough to call, because Dingle are going for the first Kerry County Championship since the 1920s. Austin Stacks only came up from intermediate last year. So you'd imagine whoever wins this game, there's going to be massive celebrations around Austin Stack Park. Or Fitzgerald, I'm actually not sure exactly where it is on. It should be probably in Fitzgerald Stadium, shouldn't it? Just to be fair, to be honest with you. But look, that's another story for another day. It is an interesting game. So intriguing, that midfield. Mark O'Connor against Ben Murphy. It's almost like the old guard against the newer guard. Ben Murphy coming up through the ranks, Mark O'Connor being the most experienced player there. And I think Owen Sheehan did mention as well, a lot of Kerry kind of punters will be almost upset looking at this final in many ways. Yes, it'll be a brilliant game of football, but it's almost like what might have been. You could have had Ben Murphy in the team. If you had Mark O'Connor there, what a player to have in your team. Imagine if Kerry had Mark O'Connor, Joe O'Connor around the middle, Ben Murphy coming through, and he's still a David Clifford up top, and Paul Gainey and Sean O'Shea and the likes.
Killian Burke.
They dominate the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like it's unreal, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I've praised Stacks in the last 2 weeks, so I have to probably back Stacks to win this game. It's going to be a close call, though. It's really going to be a close call. But Stacks impressed me so much in the semi-final against Rathmore. I'm going to stick with Stacks to win it.
Any disagreements, lads? Anyone tipping Dingle?
No, I do like the look of Dingle, though. Like especially like obviously as Matthew was alluding to there, like the work they kind of did a couple of years ago. They were very close to winning this championship. 76 years without winning it as well. But yeah, it is very hard to bet against Stacks, especially when you do have a midfield like that and some of the other players that they have. So no, I think I probably would go with Stacks narrowly.
Yeah, I would agree. I think when Matthew lays out the team, especially in that last episode when he laid out the team and just in every line, they're stacked. I didn't even mean it that time. But especially all eyes would be on whether they can get Dylan Casey back, and it would be interesting to see if they go further into the championship, will he be tempted to return, and what an impact he could have on the championship still. Aaron, I will throw it straight back to you. The Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship final takes place this Sunday at 3:45. Lockmore Castleiney going up against Nina Era Og. And look, the stars on display here from Jake Morris to the McGraths. We've got a lot on offer in this one. It should be a cracker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to have the best of, Tipperary's kind of intercounty players on show, really, on Sunday. And there's some interesting storylines as well. Like Lockmore Castleiney have never won back-to-back hurling championships in Tipperary for as strong as they have been. They've never gone back-to-back before. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can do that. And then Nina Erogue as well, like haven't won it in 30 years. So, whilst they are stacked with players like Jake Morris and Sam O'Farrell, they haven't won this in 30 years. They've obviously come close on a couple of occasions. So I think it's there for Nina Erogue. I think it is. Like, I think with Lockmore, we know John McGrath, Noel McGrath, the influence that they have, the influence that they had at the summer with their county. But a lot of those players were playing last week as well. They were playing football as well last week, from what I know. So the advantage will be a little bit there with Nina Erogue. And they have been building as well. Like, they've been building the last couple of years. They've got a tremendous amount of young players within their team, and I think they should have enough, in my opinion, to get over the line and win a first Tipperary title in 30 years. And they'll definitely be one of them teams as well going into the Munster series that I think a lot of people will overlook and not kind of look towards, because people will be focused on Ballygunner and SARS and everything else and the Pearshig, and I think they'll be probably waiting in the wings a little bit as well. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Any disagreements with the Aaron's verdict, lads? Anyone fancy? What?
No, not really. But one more thing as well. I actually have relations in Nina, so distant family or family members, if you could say that, in Nina as well. So I am going to root for them. Hopefully, they will get over the line. And as well as that, Aaron mentioned the likes of Sam O'Farrell and Jay Morris. They have excellent players there. But their school team, Nina CBS, actually won the Harty Cup a few seasons back. So it does kind of epitomise that the talent is coming through in Nina, and they're kind of a big dog waiting in the next few years. So I think Nina will get over the line this weekend, and I'm actually hoping Nina will go on and win this game. And as well as that, the tip winners face Aero Guinness in the Munster semi-finals. So huge opportunity for one of them three to reach the Munster final this year.
Absolutely. So, and you don't have to go through the typical teams that maybe you would have had to gone through in previous years in the Munster Championship, like the Pearshigs, like Ballygunners, who've kind of been there over the last 5 years. But anyway, we're going to move then to the Kilkenny Senior Hurling Championship final. Liam, I'm going to come to you for this. Peter has given us a really good build-up to it. He says the Kilkenny final will be a dinger. Can Shamrocks topple the Johns Parishmen? Going to go with a draw. Interesting, Henry Shefflin and Brian Hogan are involved together with the Kilkenny 20s. That's a really interesting storyline going into this one. I wonder, have they been speaking at all during the week? And interestingly as well, Liam, Peter asked you directly. He says, Liam, who would you rather Kilcormac Callaghy would be playing in Leinster's first round? Obviously off the back of your thoughts of this one.
As the great Ole Gunnar Solskjaer once said, couldn't care less. Bring either of them on.
There you go.
This could come back and bite me, but you know what it is? I don't fear. With Offaly, you'd have a bit of a fear at times about, say, you're playing in Kilkenny or whatever. But with my club, I genuinely don't have a fear of playing anyone. So I don't care.
I'd be more afraid of Ballyhill, to be honest.
You would be, but to the same degree, O'Loughlin Gales, I felt. Now I know I'm going a while back, but we played a much better Ballyhale team back in 2014 and should have bet them, and we should have won the Leinster title that day. Whereas 2 years ago against O'Loughlin Gales, I mean, we were miles off the pace in the first half, and we were never ever going to crawl ourselves back to get ourselves over the line that day. But John, I wouldn't mind a crack at either one of them, to be honest with you. I kind of anticipated from the quarterfinals out that it would be these two in the final. Having said that, the last day it was very nearly a Dixborough Mullinavat final, but with the way the things, the semi-finals went down. But in all seriousness, no, I'm very much looking forward to this game. I'd nearly go to this game if I could, but just family stuff going on Sunday, so I won't be able to make it down to it. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be a cracking final. I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, look, there's no point going through some of the players that obviously both teams have with O'Loughlin Gales. You have Paddy Deegans, you have Mikey Butlers, Jordan Malloy's, players like this who are just terrific. Hugh Lawler, arguably the best fullback in the country, or at least certainly one of the best fullbacks in the country, has an Ironman hand on him. You know, he's able to catch ball all day, every day of the week. But then you look at obviously Ballyhale Shamrocks, your Adrian Mullins, your Owen Cody's, I should say, your Joey Holdens, and I mean TJ Reid is, I mean, arguably people would argue he's the greatest hurler of all time, and he's still doing it for his club and his county. I think, look, you look at 2 years ago, the way O'Loughlin Gales won that game out, but people do forget that Ballyhale were missing a good load of players that day, that had they had them on that day, they would have probably won that final, but it's taken nothing away from O'Loughlin Gales. They won the way they won that, and then went on to win the Leinster Championship. And bearing in mind, look at the teams that they bet to win the Leinster Championship. Mount Leinster Rangers away from home, Cormac Clahy away from home, and Na Fianna in Croke Park. You know, I know they didn't have Donald Burke, but it was still a very, very impressive route to the All-Ireland final, which, you know, had there been goal-like technology in Croke Park, they would have won the All-Ireland final against Thomas's last year as well. But I won't upset any Thomas's fans while I'm here. But yeah, no, look, and I feel O'Loughlin Gales, especially after the way they only scored 7 points in last year's final against Thomastown, they'd be desperate to put things right here this time. They have a savage defence, but it's always difficult to beat the same team twice in 1 year. And O'Loughlin Gales, they bet Ballyhale early on in the year. They had a savage second half. Ballyhale were on top of them in the first half, but then they came back and kind of won it comfortably enough in the end. But I am actually going to back Henry Shefflin's men to do it. I think it's going to be a Ballyhale Cormac Clahy quarter final. I think Ballyhale and TJ Reid and Adrian Mullins and all these players. And look, Owen Cody for me is still one of the most deadliest corner forwards in the country and can hurt you on any given day. And if he gets any type of space, if he gets on top of, you know, any one of the players he's marking, if Hugh, look, I can't imagine Hugh Lauder be picking him up, but if Mikey Butler is picking him up, then, you know, I think if he gets the better of him there, then Ballyhale have a great chance. And this thing as well for Ballyhale, they haven't won the championship since 2022, which for them is a famine. Do you know what I mean? It is a famine for them, especially over the last 10, 15 years. So for me, I think when I go down to Nolan Park in 2 weeks' time, I think we're going to be facing Henry Shefflin's Ballyhale team, but it won't be simple. I can see this being a 2-point game. I could see it going right down to the wire, but our good friend TJ popping up with maybe a point or two, winning a free, just doing something like using his bit of experience to get them over the line.
I agree with you. I think Ballyhale are going to reclaim the throne. Is there anyone going for O'Loughlin Gales here?
No. I think we will disagree with each other, hopefully, at some point.
Yeah.
We haven't all rehearsed this, so I should say.
You know what it looks like sometimes? It looks like I haven't got a clue about this game, so I'm just going to say that I agree. So I don't have to actually go in deep on it. But there's no question about it. Ballyhale, for me, have the better forward line, but O'Loughlin Gales have the better defence. So it's really interesting then in terms of like stylistically, how do they match up against Kilcormac? Because I have to say, when O'Loughlin Gales beat Kilcormac, I thought Mikey Butler did a really good job on Adam Screeney. And I thought that matchup just came like a little bit too early for Screeney, because I fell from that day, because I was like, that was the year, wasn't it, that Mikey Butler had marked Tony Kelly out of the game, in the All-Ireland semi-finals. So I was like, this guy has marked the best players in the country. It's a hell of an assignment to be handed when you're such a young lad. But I think Kilcormac are just, 2 years wiser, 2 years faster, 2 years stronger. And I really think if Ballyhale get out, then it's a shootout between Ballyhale and Kilcormac, and it'll be an unbelievable game. I think if O'Loughlin's get out, it will be more of a battle, and that will be the type of game that will show, okay, how much have Kilcormac actually progressed, because I think O'Loughlin Gales would really bring the physicality to it. And I think that would ask a lot of questions, a lot of different questions about Kilcormac. But from a Na Fianna perspective as well, Na Fianna will be, buzzing and praying they get a crack at either of these. Because if they beat Ballyhale, that's the biggest stamp of legitimacy you could get for a Leinster Championship, is to beat Ballyhale. Or if they get O'Loughlin Gales, then they get a chance for redemption from the Leinster final a couple of years ago. I feel like Na Fianna would be a bit more nervous playing Kilcormac, because they're not playing from behind the 8 ball this time. They're not playing as the team to have a score to settle. They're playing as a team to have a score to be settled with them. So the way it could play out is really interesting here, but only time will tell. Aaron, I'll throw this next one to you. The Wexford Senior Hurling Championship final. We have St. Martin's going up against Rathnoor. This one, again, St. Martin's season team now. Ratnur St. Dan's coming in, looking to upset the apple cart here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like we've had over like in Wexford in the last couple of years, like there has been a couple of shocks and surprise. Remember Shalmaliers won one in 2020, was a Rapparees a couple of years ago as well. So like in Wexford, there does seem to be a lot of teams who seem to come and cause surprise. But I think St. Martin's have always been the one like constant in terms of some of the intercounty players that they have, and in terms of what they have achieved over the last couple of years and in their history in Wexford. Yeah, it's probably definitely like I feel like Wexford champions in the last couple of years haven't done too well in Leinster, and I think for that reason they're probably one of the teams that are kind of overlooked a little bit. But yeah, I think it's absolutely huge from their perspective to get over the line, and yeah, I think it will be a close fought battle, but I think St. Martin's will come through.
Any disagreements at all, lads? Do we fancy St. Martin's? I probably do. I think too much experience. I think that they'll shade that one.
And interesting enough, if all goes to plan, it'll be St. Martin's hosting Nafina in the quarterfinal, and they met last year in the semi-final. So Nafina will have a few teams that they could have be going up against that will have scores to settle with them this year. So that'd be, I tell you, so if you had obviously one of the Kilkenny champions against Cormac and then St. Martin's against Nafina, you'd have some big teams going out in the quarterfinals to be wide open after that.
Yeah, no, certainly so. Liam, I will throw you the Armagh Senior Football Championship final next. Madden going up against St. Pat's Cúilín. This one should be a banger.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, look, it's another, sorry to mention it to you, Aaron, it's another prediction gone for us, Crossmaglen Rangers. But I think, look, to a degree, though, it was nice to see. It's nice to see, kind of not new clubs, but seeing like just a unique final this time. It's nice to see. Am I right in saying that these are two clubs that have never won the Armagh Championship, or one hasn't won it in a long time? Neither of them have won it.
Yeah, neither have won it before. Yeah,
yeah, like that's for me. That's remarkable, and it makes it a lot more special. Yeah, I suppose it's a really hard one to it's a hard one to call. I mean, look, if you're getting over Crossmaglen Rangers, and especially the way they did it in the last minute as well, with that last minute free that went over the bar, then you're going to go. You're certainly going to go a long way. But yeah, I could actually see this one potentially being a draw.
Yeah, I could see it as well. Like, I think it'll be really, really interesting because obviously when you have two teams that are new to the final, like the first 10 minutes can either be really, really cagey where neither of them want to make mistakes, or it can be mental where they both just come out and just go crazy. Like, I could see it being quite cagey, a little bit more low scoring than some of the other county finals. But I'd probably shade it to Madden slightly. I don't know. I have a little feeling that they're going to do it. Matthew, I will throw this one to you next. The Tyrone Senior Football Championship final. Trillick, who eliminated Errigal Kieran, the defending champions, going up against Lough McCrory again. Another team that has, really exuberant talent coming through with the likes of Owen McElhone, etc. And McCullough, who's a superb player. Now, interestingly, I've seen this. Lough McCrory, the local parish church, put out a tweet saying that there will be no mass on the Sunday because Lough McCrory are playing, that the mass is on Saturday. So they made sure to let everybody know that. So literally the whole parish is getting behind this Lough McCrory team. I think when you're talking experience in the final, especially over the last 2 years and kind of being around the final, semi-final or winning it, Trillick definitely have more experience. But can Lough McCrory have the day?
This is a banana skin, I would say, for Trillick. Look, Trillick, brilliant performance against Errigal Kieran, getting over the line, and deservedly so, are being taught up by many people. But this has a feel. This reminds me a lot of Donegal against Cavan in 2020. I don't know what it is, but it just reminds me of that kind of game where the underdogs aren't being talked about at all, other than the church post, obviously, on Facebook. They aren't talked about as much as Trillick. Trillick are, along with Ballyboden, been fancied for the All-Irelands. And probably, again, rightly so. They beat Errigal Kieran. They've got through Tyrone. They have some decent players. And they have the emotional kind of thing going on where they're trying to do it for Jody as well. But the thing is, this Loch McCrory team, I am really excited by the likes of Rory McCullough and Owen McElholm are the two most exciting players, not just in Tyrone, but the whole country. McElholm is a boy wonder at this stage. Rory McCullough is probably an underrated player in many ways. He was the top scorer in the under-20 championship for Tyrone and overall in the championship as well. I don't know. I have a feeling that McCrory might nick it. This might be one of the shocks we could see this weekend. Trillick beat Errigal, and a lot of people are talking about them. This has all the ingredients of a shock here. And I feel like I'm probably going to get disagreements. This is probably the first where we're going to get complete disagreements. But I think Loch McCrory could nick this one.
Who's disagreeing? Liam, work away.
I'm just hoping more for our sake that the team that knocked our team out goes on and wins it, to be honest with you. Worse on our part. Look, I just think Trillick, the experience they've had over the last couple of years of winning the Tyrone Championship might stand to them here. And look at the end of the day, I keep kind of repeating it. And look, it doesn't always come off, but if you're beating a team like Errigal, Kieran, and you're beating them in the fashion that they did as well, then I think it's very hard to overlook them. But look, that's the thing. That's the kind of thing as well. Owen McElholm for me is, like Matthew said, they're one of the most exciting young footballers in the country. I think wasn't he named under 20 footballer of the year this year? Am I wrong? He was. Yeah, like he's an unbelievable talent, and he can absolutely win you a final on his day. He's absolutely savage. But I just think Trillick, with the confidence that they'll have after winning the last day, and you look at the players that they have as well. I mean, Matty Donnelly's the one that stands out the most. But just like, I don't know. I think it will be a close final, like Matthew said, but I'm gonna edge it to Trillick. I think they might be able to edge it maybe final 10 minutes. You know, I could see it being close, but I could see them kind of petering it out and maybe winning by 5 points in the end.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be right down to the wire. I'm shading it to Trillick as well. Aaron, I'd love to get your prediction on that one, but then on top of that, the one after, if you could walk us through what promises to be a cracker. Roscommon Senior Football Championship final, St. Bridget's against Porrick Pierces.
Yeah, I suppose in terms of the Tyrone Football Championship, I think I'd agree with Matthew as well. I think Tyrone in general, and there's a few reasons why I think this. I think over the last 10, 15 years, if there's ever been a championship to throw up shocks and surprises, it's been the Tyrone Football Championship. Like seeing what Dungannon done, what Dromore did, what Trillick have done themselves, Errigal, Kieran. Like there does seem to be a different winner every couple of years. There was that stat where there was 10 different winners in 10 different years or something like that. So yeah, I think Loch McCrory could do it, to be honest, especially with Trillick having gotten over. Like they beat the big dogs, they beat the big team. How many times has that happened? And then you go in serious favourites and then kind of get caught flat-footed against a team that no one's really speaking too much about. So yeah, I'd go with Loch McCrory there. In terms of the Roscommon football final, it's huge. Yeah, it's the two best teams in Roscommon really over the last couple of years. It's the 24 winners versus the 23 winners. In Bridges, you've got some sort of big players like Ben O'Carroll and Brian Stack. You've got Kieran and Niall Daly with Pierce's. Paul Carey, I think, is still there as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of very good players that are going to be on show for both teams. We know Roscommon teams tend to do very well as well in the All-Ireland series in terms of Connacht, and Bridges are actually might pick for Connacht. So I'll certainly be hoping that they can they can kind of follow through and get the job done. I haven't watched too much Roscommon Championship, so I don't know what the form of Ben O'Carroll. I know he kind of dropped in now with Roscommon at times this year, so I think that could be absolutely huge. But yeah, I think I'd go with Bridget's to shade it. Interestingly, lads, this is the first time that this has happened over the course of the year, I think. No. It happened between me and you, Aaron, when Coola went up against Ballybowden. But this is the second time where we've had provincial picks go up against each other. So one of Liam or Aaron is going to see their prediction for Connacht get dashed this Sunday, and we'll be here Sunday evening. Could be a replay as well. Who knows? Trying to play. Be a politician there.
Nah, get it done.
Penalty shootout should be in county finals, lads. Hate to tell you.
No.
Content.
I can't have more predictions going down the drain. Jesus Christ, my ball knowledge would be down the drain. Jesus, no, please.
Well, Another provincial pick is in a county final this weekend. Matthew, bringing it on to you. Your pick of Nemo Rangers to win the Munster Championship is still going strong. They're in the Cork Premier Senior Football Championship final this Sunday at 3:30 against St. Finbarrs. I mean, this again, two very, very recently successful Cork champions in Rangers and the Bars. But who's coming out on top this Sunday?
I did say Nemo to win the provincial championship, so I do think the winners of Cork have a big chance of winning the Munster Championship because of, Stacks are a decent side and Kerry and Dingle are a decent side, but they wouldn't be as big as the likes of Dr. Crokes or whatever in Kerry circles. And I don't think the Munster teams around the four smaller counties are as big, so I do think it will be Nemo or the Bars potentially to win Munster, but I will not lie, lads. I looked at the semi-final between Nemo. I was at the game between Nemo and Newcestown, and I was nervous about my prediction, to be honest with you. Newcestown, I'll say it now. This is from a guy that said Nemo would win Munster. Newcestown deserved to win the semi-final. I don't know how they didn't win it. Nemo got 2 goals near the end of the game through Kevin Footing-Natties in particular. Was a bit sketchy. Was it a square ball? I don't know. But obviously Nemo went to the final anyway, whereas the Bars were very, very efficient, especially in the second half against Ballincollig. They put them away at source. Two sides that have some very, very interesting players. Obviously, Mark Cronin there for Nemo, Brian Hayes, Conor Horgan, Kevin O'Donovan. Some very good players in the Nemo team. Obviously, Micheál A. Martin in goal as well. For the Bars, you have Sherlock, who scored 6 goals and 36 points in the Cork Championship, which is absolutely incredible. Thank God he's back at the Cork team next year. You have Brian Hayes. I don't know where he's going to play. Is he going to play midfield? He's going to play at full forward. Ian Maguire, of course, as well. Players like Eaton Toomey, John Wigden Barrett, who were normally Cork hurlers, but are very, very capable footballers as well. The kind of baggage that the Bars have, the Bars probably, I would say this, the Bars probably have a better team. And they probably have better quality players and they have a better style of play. But what Nemo have is know-how in finals. I remember the 2022 final, the Bars are going in raging hot favourites, and raging hot favourites for Munster as well. And a lot of people's books, including my own, I thought the Bars, after testing Kilcoo all the way the previous season, beating Austin Stacks, I thought, okay, the Bars are going to dominate Cork for a bit. And then Nemo just turn up in the final and beat the Bars. This has, like, the thing is about this game, I look at stats of this game. In their results, both have averaged a winning margin of 7 points. Nemo and the Bars. So it doesn't get any closer than this. They're city rivals as well. They both have marquee forward, Mark Cronin for Nemo, Sherlock for the Bars. It's a very, very tight game to call. Probably because of my Munster prediction at the start of the year, I have to edge it to Nemo because of their know-how in finals. But I would say this, I think the Bars probably have better quality players. It's just a question mark how they'll turn up in a final. The last 2 finals the Bars actually won since 1990, which 2018 and 2021. They played against Duhallow and Clonakilty. 2 sides with the greatest respect that wouldn't be used to finals as much as, say, a Nemo or Castlehaven. This is a huge challenge for the Bars. The Bars do have a good backroom team. Jimmy Barry Murphy is in the backroom team there. So they might have the temperament this time to get over the line. I'm not sure, though. I just feel like Nemo might edge it because of their final experience and their final know-how. I just will edge it to Nemo, but geez, it's going to be a close game, I think.
It's going to be very close. I will agree with you. I'll shade it to Nemo. I'm remembering that final in 2022 where I picked the Bars to win Munster that year, like not just to win Cork. And then Nemo, it's like Nemo just were that wily veteran type that just knew how to get over the line. But then, sure, Nemo went and lost the next round. So that year, the Munster Championship in general was crazy. Be really, really interesting. And Nemo do lead the Cork Roll of Honour, don't they? I'm fairly sure they do in the football. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they lead the All-Ireland football.
The All-Ireland, say, club football senior titles, Nemo of the most.
Yeah, Nemo. Yeah, I thought that because I remember.
Cross McGlenn, no?
No,
Nemo.
Nemo. Aaron, if Matthew says it, it's true.
Yeah, I should know better.
I will throw the next one to you, Aaron. The Monaghan Senior Football Championship Final, Scottstown against Inishkeen Grattans. This one is taking place at 2:30 p.m. on Sunday. Now, Scottstown obviously have all the big names in terms of the biggest names, the Rory Beggins, the Jack McCarrans. But who's coming out on top in this one?
Yeah, you'd probably have to say Scottstown, to be honest with you, given what they've achieved, obviously, in Monaghan over like the last, the last couple of years. I mean, they've been so dominant for so long. Won the title last year, the year before as well. As he says, notable intercounty players: Jack McCarran, Conor McCarthy, Rory Beggin. They came through Clontibret O'Neill's the last day as well, fairly comfortably as well, and they've obviously got star players like Conor McManus. Don't know a huge amount about Inishkeen. What I do know is they haven't won it since 1948. So if they can go and get over Scottstown, it would be an incredible achievement. One of the club shocks of the year, you'd imagine. But I think Scottstown should win this, and especially as well when you look at the teams that are gone out of Ulster, and we could have more shocks and everything else this weekend as well. You feel like this could potentially be the year that Scottstown make the breakthrough in Ulster and potentially in the All Ireland as well. So I think it's huge for them not to slip up here.
True, but after last year, I wouldn't hold my breath too much, because am I right in saying as Kilcoo annihilated them last year?
Yeah,
So
I thought Scottstown would win that.
Kilcoo are one of the teams that have already qualified for the Ulster Championship, and they look as good as ever. Misha Mayfain 100 said would be mad if Inishkeen won Monaghan with Tommy Dernan having left to go to St Mary's RD. Now, interestingly, that's actually an inter-county player moving back to the county that he's playing for. So I'm not sure if I'm as against that as players moving to a county that's different.
To be fair, Seamus, I don't know. Do you actually know where Inishkeen is? It's on the border.
Yeah, it's right on the border, so it probably could play. Yeah. But weird enough that they play in Monaghan. I know it's right on the border, but all right, this is an out of touch Dove speaking. I don't want to dig myself a hole, but like, I'm like, how does that work? How does he play in a club? How does he grow up? Maybe he didn't, but how does he grow up playing in a club in one county yet qualifies to play for a different county? Maybe family or something, I don't know.
I suppose it's kind of... Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just... This might be a theory, but maybe Tommy's house is right on like the low Monaghan border, and Tommy's house is on the right, and Inishkeen Grattan's GA club is on the left.
Yeah.
It's just
I wonder is Tommy Dernan like Andy Moore and the Mayo Roscommon.
Yeah. There's one spot as well. There's one spot I've been to it, and it's nuts. Rooski. And it's between Leitrim, Longford, and Roscommon, and none of them can agree where it is. So, like the day where you have a world-class inter-county footballer, that's just bubbling under the surface, and you'll all try claim. Then it'll be chaos. We get a David Clifford player come from that part of the world, and then it'll be really on. Then we'll find out what county it's in. Liam, I'll throw the next one to you. Offaly Senior Football Championship Final for Ban going up against Tullamore at 3:00. Talk us through this one, man.
Yeah, third year in a row that these two sides are going at each other. The final that took place 2 years ago was one of the most shocking things, not just in football, but in mankind that's ever come out of Tullamore, that's after come out of Offaly, to be honest with you. It was that bad that I watched the North London Derby instead. It was just a horrific match to watch. DG Carr must have been devastated that they chose that match that day, to be honest with you. But ironically, then last year's final was a cracker, and it ended in controversial fashion. There was a lot of controversy over the refereeing performance. Was he sided with Tullamore? Should Forban have maybe made a few appeals or whatever? But look,
wouldn't be like Tullamore to push a ref now.
we won't go into that, but. I see a question. Is Cormac Egan playing? Oh, Cormac Egan will be playing, and he'll be one player. He's one player I've had to mark myself at minor level, and I mean, it wasn't fun marking him then. It's not fun marking him now. So he's a player that Tullamore will absolutely be going to. The goal he scored against Road in the semi-final just epitomises the player that he is. That when he gets on the ball, teams are sitting off him. They have 3 lads around him, but he just beats every single one of them every single time. He's a big unit. He's extremely fast, and he's fairly accurate in front of goal as well. But the thing with Faban is that they've been a team full of hearts this year as well. The way they got back and bet Shamrocks a couple of weeks ago. I was doing the commentary for that game, and they were 6 points down with 15 minutes to go, and they ended up winning it by a point. Jack Clancy got a hat-trick and won it for them in the end. And then the last day against Edenderry, a game that a lot of people saw it as 50-50, and even had a lot of people seen Edenderry as the favourites. They absolutely thumped them 3-19 to 11 points. They absolutely destroyed them. You know, Cian Johnson was on fire that day. Paddy Clancy, who would have been on the Offaly hurling panel the last couple of years before he went travelling, is back in great form. David Nally, who's on the Offaly hurling panel, and has had a great year for the Belmont hurlers, because the Belmont and Forban to be the same clubs, only just with hurling football. He's a free-flowing footballer. He's a very, very tidy footballer. Kyle Higgins, who starts for the Offaly footballers, was only used as a 5-10 minute sub the last day because obviously he's injured. But like when you have a player like that and you're not having to use them, or you don't need them, say at halftime or whatever, then it just shows what type of a team you are. So, and look, for Forban, they won the title in 2019. They've been desperately unlucky not to win it the last 2 years. But then you have Tullamore, who they brought in Stephen Rochford this year as a coach, and even speaking to Declan Hogan there last week, he'd said that he's brought positive trainings to the club, and you know you can notice him. I was there at the media night last week, and you know it was Stephen anyways shouting at the players. You know well it was him, but no, I think it has to make it up a very, very good final. Look, Tullamore would be going into this as favourites, and look, if they get out of Offaly, then you just never know. They could easily have taken down Cúilín in the semi-final last year. Would they fancy themselves against either the Downs or Corstown Kinnegad from Westmeath? We'll have to wait and see. It'll be in Mullingar, and going to Mullingar is never simple. But see, my head is telling me that Tullamore is going to win it again. But there's just something about Forban, the way their club is run, and the players that they have, and the heart that they've shown this season. Again, this one could be a draw, but see, I have friends on both teams, so I don't like this. But do you know what?
We can pick for you if you want. We can pick for you.
No, do you know what? I'm gonna go with Forban to pull off the upset. I think now. Look, my head in a way is telling me that Tullamore will still win it, but I'm gonna go with Forban to end their 6-year drought and win the title. They've Oisin Kelly in the middle of the field as well to win high ball, which is a big positive for them as well. I'm gonna give it to Forban to win it by a point, but at the same time, look, Tullamore are still the strongest club in Offaly, and it wouldn't shock me if they just went out and blew them away. But I'm gonna go for Forban. Why not? I might as well get laughed at by some of the boys. And Cormac, if you are watching, I still like you, and the Foxes, I still like you. Don't worry.
Go ahead.
Just one thing, Liam, I wanted to ask you. Cian Johnson with Offaly. What's the story? Is he going to get picked next year?
Based off this year's form, I would be picking him, because he's been unbelievable this season. He was absolutely outstanding in the semi-final against Edenderry. Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know what his situation is, to be honest with you. I would happily see him back in with the Offaly panel next year. I think he has a lot to give for Offaly, to be honest. Like, he's big, he's strong, and my God, he is a wonder of a left foot as well. Like, he's deadly accurate when he gets an opportunity at goal. But look, I honestly don't know. I maybe if he has a good county final, Declan Kelly and Mickey Hart might look at him and say, you know, he could be a good option to have next year. You know, and he could look, maybe if we had him against Kildare in the Tailteann Cup quarter final, you never know, we might have got over the line in the end, and who knows, we might have gone on and won it. But from my perspective anyways, I'd certainly be asking him to come back in. Look, if he doesn't want to go back, then look, fair enough, it's the lad's choice at the end of the day, but I'd certainly have him back in next year, judging off this year's form.
No, he's been impressive, there's no doubt about it. The next game we're going to throw to, Aaron, I'm going to bring this one to you, is the Louth Senior Football Championship Final. Naomh team going up against Newtown Blues. Again, another interesting final and another interesting game of consequence for the Leinster Championship too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Naomh Martin have got some very talented players in there, most notably Samuel Roy. So that's going to be very interesting to see in terms of how that game kind of pans out. And yeah, like I remember a couple of years ago, like, you know, we were kind of looking at Naomh Martin a little bit, and you were thinking like they're a bit of a, you know, maybe kind of outside, you know, dark horses for Leinster and everything else, and kind of just never materialised. RD kind of took over a little bit after that. And yeah, I think Newtown Blues beat RD, was it the last time out? As well. So yeah, be very interesting to see if they can go and beat Naomh Martin. I don't have the numbers in front of me in terms of when they last won a Louth Football Championship, but could be absolutely huge as well if they can get over the line. But I think off of the base of what I've seen from Nath Martin in previous years and some of the players that they do have, especially Samuel Roy, who, you know, I think has been the figurehead and the poster boy really of Louth football over the last kind of 5 to 10 years. So, yeah, you probably go for them to kind of come through this.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a big game. Mr. Mayfain is answering my question about Tommy Dernan. He says he was from a junior club close to Monaghan in Louth. He went to Inniskeen and now returned to Louth football. ID were Leinster finalists last year. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayfain. We are going to move down to the next game. Liam, if you bring us through this one, the Downs going up against Coralstown in the Westmeath Senior Football Championship final. Big game this.
Yeah, massive game, and it's a massive game for Coralstown Ginnegad. They haven't won the Westmeath Championship this century. It's I think it's 1995. I wrote this earlier. I should be knowing off the top of my head, but I can't remember if it's 95 or 96. I think it's 95. I think it's it's 96. I'm fucking stupid. It's 96. They're looking to bridge. But
they hire anyone at Midlands, do they?
It's kind of a bit like Gary Neville there, 95, 96.
Yeah, they'd probably hire anyone at this point. But no, Coralstown Ginnegad, it's a big weekend for them. They lost the final 2 years ago, and again, not the best of finals in Westmeath. I don't know what was going on in 2023. There was just no great finals going on back then, was there, in the club scene? But yeah, no, look, the Downs are coming into this firmly as the favourites. Look, they've been the best side in Westmeath this year by a country mile. They're an absolutely savage team. They have some absolutely terrific players. I mean, Luke Loughlin is the big standout player. You know, he's just, I think he's one of the most underrated forwards in the country, and rightfully so. Even though Westmeath got knocked down in the quarterfinals in the Tailteann Cup, I think he rightfully so got himself an all-star in the Tailteann Cup this year. He's a terrific forward, and can beat a team by himself on any given day. And the Downs, look, they had a very, very impressive win over Mullingar Shamrocks in the semi-finals by 11 points. But Coralstown Ginnegad, they've had some really, really tough matches over the last couple of weeks. They've beaten Colliery and Athlone. They bet Athlone, I believe it was, in first to keep their championship hopes alive. And then they bet Colliery by a couple of points in the quarterfinal, which really, really drove them on. And then a lot of people were sort of surprised by seeing them beat St. Lomans. Obviously, St. Lomans were going, I believe it was for a 10th final in a row, or an 11th final in a row, and they were going for a third title in a row. But St. Lomans weren't maybe going as well this year as they have been over the last couple of years. But it wasn't a shock to me to see Coralstown Ginnegad actually beat them the last day. And they bet them, when you look at it, the scoreline, 4 points in the end and scoring 120 is really, really impressive. So, and that's the thing, they're coming into this game off the back of 3 really, really hard, solid games, you know. So I think they've had the most ideal preparation coming into a game like this. And look, I think I kind of felt for a while that if there is a team that maybe take down the Downs or St. Lomans, the next team in Westmeath is Coralstown Ginnegad. And look, I've interviewed Jack Cooney, their manager, a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. He's a very nice chap, and he's very, very positive about the panel this year. And look, as he said himself, they're just delighted to be at this stage and still playing football. And isn't it great that we're still playing football at this time of the year? It shortens the winter, and he's absolutely right. And that's the kind of positive energy you want going into a final. And yeah, do you know what? I'm feeling very generous today, so I'm going to go with Coralstown Ginnegad to win their first title in 30 years. I'm going to pick them to pull off the shock, and I think we're going to see instead of a Downs Tullamore quarterfinal, I think we're going to see a Coralstown Ginnegad for Ban quarterfinal, and that would really open up Leinster then, in my opinion.
Well, it's been the year of John Cullens in the Leinster Championship. Like, no more example than, I mean, Naas getting dumped out in Kildare. I mean, nobody would have predicted that at the beginning of the year. But one provincial champion remains in the men's football, and that's Coolera Strandhill. Aaron, they have to do it all again against Shamrock Gales. It's a replay of the Sligo Senior Football Championship final on Sunday at 3 p.m. Who's going to edge this replay?
Yeah, this will be an interesting one. Like, Coolera Strandhill were 5 points up in injury time versus Shamrock Gales, and they conceded a penalty, and the penalty actually had to be retaken as well. So it was a little bit of a so yeah, like on the basis of that, like Coolera Strandhill looked like they were going to win the game quite comfortably. You know, and they kind of let the Gales kind of back into it. So I would probably go with Coolera Strandhill to come through it. I think they have enough, but look, we'll see what happens, to be fair. I mean, if the Gales can build off of what they did in the last kind of 10-15 minutes, and they've a chance. But no, I'd go with Strandhill. I think they've a bit too much here.
Do you know, I'm actually going to go with Shamrock Gales. I genuinely am like, I feel like they kind of went for Coolera, down the home stretch, they kind of threw off the shackles, kind of showed them no respect. And I feel like once you did that, because I feel like they might have been respecting them a little bit too much up until that point, given that they were Connacht champions, everything like that. And then once they actually took them on, they punched holes in their defense. They made them look a little bit vulnerable. And I feel like they've it's almost like the pennies dropped with them now, where they're like, hang on, actually, we can beat these. And I feel like maybe, this time, because just there's something in the air, provincial champions aren't even making it out of their county. And I think the final one will fall this Sunday. Matthew, I'll bring the final inter-county hurling final to you. That is the Down Senior Hurling Championship final between St. Pat's, Portaferry and Ballygalget. This one is going to be really, really interesting.
It is, yeah. St. Pat's obviously were very, very close to Shotney from Derry last year, and the Ulster final with the likes of Dahi Sands and Owen Sands there. They have some very, very good players. The majority of the Down team there. Ballygalget do have made a good run to the Down final, in fairness to them. It will be a tough game for St. Pat's, but considering the likes of Lockheed Shamrocks and Rory O'Cushdall and Dundee are out of the Antrim Championship, you only really have Slotney out of the big boys, along with St. Pat's, left in the Ulster Championship. And if Portaferry were to lose on Sunday, it would be a massive opportunity lost. So I don't think they'd be in the mood for that, to be honest with you. I think they'd want to win this game and potentially be the first Down team in quite a while, or even ever, to win the Ulster Senior Hurling Championship. They'll try to do that anyway, but they have to, put their best foot forward against Ballygalget, and I think they probably will this weekend. I think Pats, if they are in the mood, they should win this comfortably.
I was super impressed with them last year when they went up against Loughneel. They were really, really good. They pushed Loughneel all the way. Loughneel needed that 2 goals in a minute that they got. I remember the second one from Shane McGuigan, and Brendan Rodgers that day at full forward was absolutely immense. I would shade it to Portaferry in this final. Liam, the last county final of the weekend is the Galway Senior Camogie final on the list that we have here. That is between Sarsfields and Athenry. It takes place at 3 p.m. Sarsfields are the obvious team that everybody's looking at. Can they be stopped for the All-Ireland Camogie? Have had so much success. Can Athenry pull off a shock in this final? Because if they can derail the Sarsfields train at this stage, that shakes up the entire All-Ireland Club Championship.
Yeah, I was feeling generous. I'm not feeling that generous. I don't think Athenry will be taking down Sarsfields this weekend. Look, I think Sarsfields are a remarkable team, and said it from a while back that they're going to be the strongest side in Galway this year, and I'm going to stick by that. I don't think anyone. Look, they had a good game. They had a good clash last year. I believe they met last year in the semi-finals. Was the final? No, it was the semi-final last year in Galway, and they were brought to extra time, which it's a credit to Athenry to even get that close to them. But I just can't see Sarsfields being bet, to be honest with you. When you have the McGraths in your team, when you have Wards in your team, Coonies, you have these types of players in your panel, it's very, very hard to take them down. So look, I think Athenry put up a good fight, but I just can't see Sarsfields being beaten. Whatever about being beaten for the All-Ireland title, certainly can't see them being beaten in the Galway Championship. I still think they're one of the strongest sides in the country, and yeah, I expect them to pull through this weekend.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can stop Sarsfields, to be honest. I think the only team that can, and I've said that they will, is Dixborough, but it'll be really, really interesting to see if Dixborough can beat St. Vincent's, because St. Vincent's looked damn good in that Dublin final that I was commentating on. So that's the county finals taken care of. The rest of the games that are taking place on the weekend that are not county finals, we'll start off with the second Waterford semi-final, which is taking place on Sunday between Rathcormac and Abbeyside, and that's at 1:30. Then we have the Leinster Senior LGFA quarterfinals, all taking place at 2 p.m. on Sunday. That's Dunshaughlin of Meath against Ballinamuir Duro of Offaly, St. Lawrence's of Kildare against Milltown of Westmeath, O'Lecklin of Carlow, interestingly doing the double, going up against Tinnahealy of Wicklow, and Kilmacud Crokes of Dublin going up against Port Leash of Laois. Munster Senior LGFA semi-final, that's the second semi-final on the weekend. Southern Gales of Kerry going up against Brian Barrows of Tipperary. The Connacht Senior LGFA semi-final sees Glencar Manor Hamilton of Leitrim going up against Owen Rua of Sligo. Munster Intermediate LGFA semi-final sees Naomh Abban of Cork going up against Moycarkey Boris of Tipperary. I've done it again, I know. With the Connacht Intermediate semi-final sees St. Barry's of Roscommon going up against Kildare Strandhill of Sligo, while the Ulster Intermediate LGFA quarter-finals concludes our list here. St. Bridget's of O'Neill's of Monaghan going up against Ayaran from Tyrone. How on earth do you even say? I'm so sorry to anybody from that club, but that is a hard Ayaran, I'll say. And then Owen Rule of Derry going up against Clonmagale from Armagh. Fanad Gales of Donegal going up against Knockbride from Cavan. Con McGee's from Armagh going up against Listenskey Emmets of Fermanagh. And that is all of the action taking place this weekend. Matthew, you have more for us.
You have 2 more games in the Munster Senior Camogie Championship in the quarterfinal. You have Clonmorris of Kerry taking on Tour de Sarsfields of Tipperary. That's on Sunday. And also on Sunday, you have Guiney Kilnamone of Clare, AC Newcastle West of Limerick. That's the Munster Camogie quarterfinals.
Brilliant. Well, that's been a hell of a preview. Liam, work away.
Would you believe me if I told you, lads, there's a county final on the bank holiday Monday?
No way.
The Westmeath replay in hurling is on the bank holiday Monday.
No way. Imagine doing that. You're going out for a few pints on the Sunday. No, I'm playing a county final on the Monday. Could they not play it on the Saturday? Nah.
I think look, they have the Westmeath football final Sunday, but I'm just thinking that's
outrageous.
See, there's a double header.
You could have. I think a double header would be class. The amount of money.
Double header would be unbelievable. Make a double header. Nah.
Bank holiday.
Why?
Oh, yeah. I think
like surely Cusack Park wouldn't sell out for one game, would it? I don't think it would it?
No, probably not. I think you make it a
day,
double.
Like make an atmosphere of it.
Well, you'd have 4 different clubs as well. Do you know?
That's it.
Do you know? But yeah, I think it's hilarious. But no one.
I wonder will they still go out for one.
Angus Clark or the Williams will be turning up Monday, and they'll still probably score 1-6 or 1-7 because they're that good. But
lads, it's happening. It's an hour 40. We're getting delusional, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Peter says, "Great preview, lads. Thanks a mil. Enjoy the games and have a good bank holiday weekend. You too, Peter, and enjoy the bank holiday weekend for anybody who tuned in, and especially those who dropped a comment. Really, really helped us to make the show an enjoyable one. That's all of the action previewed, and we'll be here on Sunday to give it all a review once again. Until then, though, take care.
Follow your instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.